do that. But I will also tell you that what concerns me a great deal is the fact that a lot of these institutions, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, if you got your mortgage from Third Federal Savings and Loan, guess what? 5 years later, you still have a mortgage with Third Federal Savings and Loan. And it may have gone through Freddie Mac and all of that, but they weren't bundling them like they were on Wall Street. They had created an entirely new vehicle, which was bonds, so that they could bundle $1 billion worth of mortgages and just sell them to the world market. And of course, by bundling those mortgages together, you can't unwrap the bundle later. You can't come back and say, you know, Mrs. Brown, we really feel badly about this. Is there any way that we can reduce your mortgage payment a little bit? There was no negotiation, because the truth of the matter is that the banks had given up all control and they were going into bonds. So my feeling is that that probably is where the system went wrong. Freddie was around and has been around for, as you say, 60 years. The problem only occurred in the last, say, 10 years when things got out of control.
Yeah, just one real quick follow-up to Mr. Mueller, if you would. The Community Reinvestment Act, which forced mortgages or lenders to lend or make mortgages to people who really couldn't afford to repay them. Did that play any role in this?
I think it did, yes.
Senator, do you want to respond?
I'm not sure I called to mind the original question that I'm to respond to.
Okay. Well, let me present something.
Sure.
We covered a lot of ground in the back and forth. I guess the original question was on the regulation and taxation of businesses, whether it's too much, too little, what the ideal environment would be, and then we got into mortgages and checking.
You know, I oftentimes don't think of this so much about as in terms of too much regulation or too little regulation or just about the right amount of regulation. I think of it in terms of common sense, effective regulation. Regulation should be at a level that makes it effective. What does that mean? What it means is it allows the regulated community to do what they do and to succeed at it, to create opportunities at it, and to prosper at it, all the while accomplishing the ends of the regulation without unnecessarily burdening the regulated community. Now, I think there are certain parts of our economy in the great state of Ohio that I would regard at this time to be either very well regulated and appropriately regulated and getting better. I think of the oil and gas industry, for example, and the bill that we passed from the Senate this past spring that establishes a regime for monitoring and environmentally sound practices in that industry that is as comprehensive as any in the country and more strict in some respects than any in the country. And that was a great, great achievement done by the Department of Natural Resources and the legislature working together to come out with that regulatory scheme, okay? But when it comes to regulations and their effectiveness, we don't really get the review that we would like to have. Every 5 years, as Mr. Mueller suggested, all existing regulations come under review, but what they come under review for is the extent to which we still need them, or it's kind of just a cursory review. And I believe what we need to do is to subject all regulations during those 5-year reviews to a common sense initiative type of screen that will determine the extent to which they are A, appropriate and achieving an objective that is regulatorily appropriate, and B, are not unnecessarily burdening the regulated population.
Okay, this is a question for both of you. Again, that's basically all my questions are going to be. They've been submitted by the audience, and they've been modified at times because we have too many of them to ask them all. And I guess, since we're doing that format, I should go to, let's see, you got the first one. Mr. Mueller did.
Senator Eklund.
Senator Eklund, you can do this one. We don't need to go onesie-twosie. We can go one.
Whoever is best.
Basically, do you think the United States is one of the best countries in the world or the best country in the world? And if so, with particularity, specifically why?
The best in the world today, the best in the history of the world, period. And why? It's because we have a system of government that strikes such delicate balances between the rights of states and the rights of the people, and the obligations of the federal government and the obligations of states. Such a discrete and beautiful division and separation of powers between the executive and the judicial and the legislative branches. This is a system that if you couldn't conceive of it. And people have tried ever since to duplicate it and make it work, but they can't quite get it right. Somewhere there was something in the air or in the minds and the hearts and the souls of those people who founded this country that allowed them to strike that balance. It's like a tuning fork in its structure. That's reason number one. Reason number two is we are the greatest country in the world because of each and every one of you and all of our citizens. We are the most ambitious, we are the most compassionate, we are the most intelligent, we are the hardest working and most faithful people on the surface of the world today. I have absolutely no doubt about that. Now, we're encouraged in that by our economic system, which is the third leg of the stool, if you will, which encourages free enterprise and rewards hard work and hard effort and investment and commitment and all of those things that make for success. So between the structure of our government, our people, and the economic system that we cling so dearly to, yeah, America is the greatest nation in the world today and in the history of the world.
I'm going to repeat a story that I've used several times in my presentations. When I was a boy, I was about 10 years old. I used to help my dad clean a warehouse in downtown Cleveland on weekends. And we were driving over the high-level bridge in downtown Cleveland. And he said, pulled off to the side of the road, he said, "Get out, son, I want to show you something." And I immediately thought to myself, oh God, he found out I had a cigarette and he's going to throw me right off that bridge and that's going to be over with. But he didn't do that. What he did do is he said, I want to tell you something. When you're in school, they're going to teach you several things, but two of them are very important. The first thing they're going to teach you is that we have the greatest democracy in the world, which I agree with, and that this country, because of its political structure, was the first democracy on earth, and it's also the best. And of course, we've been working at it for over 238 years or whatever it is. And that is why we are a great country. That's what they're going to teach you in school because of our political structure. He said the second thing that they're going to teach you is that we have maintained our freedoms because of the valor of our soldiers and of our commitment to maintaining our liberties at all costs. And we fought wars and we have held the battlements for years at the edges of freedom. He said, but the third thing is, and he took his hand and he went like this all across the flats, and there was lots of smoke rising. He said, the third thing is because America produces the most steel, the most chemicals, the most glass of any place on earth. And I guess I agree we're still the greatest country on earth. My problem is, two of those three things are still true. One of them isn't. The sad part is that we've given away so much of our industrial economy, and that has got to change. That's why I believe that it's helpful to have a chemical engineer who knows something about manufacturing and what it takes to make things.
The next question, or it's a series kind of questions, but I'll roll them together. It deals with your views toward the United Nations. There are a lot of people who may think that's kind of a weird thing to ask of a state senator, but there are